So for this session, we're already on the third session for day one. The panel will focus on the residencies, the residents that received grants from Don Papa. This is the second year they're sponsoring this program, and there are 6 artists, so it will be quite an interesting discussion. We'll have to manage the time. So I won't have to eat up on that. Let me introduce the moderator, Portia Placino. She's an art educator and writer based in Manila. She's one of our recipients of the Purita Kahlo Ledesma Prizes in Art Criticism. This was last 2021 pa pala. And she received the Orange Project Residency. That's the first year that we have offered a residency for an artist. Her previous engagements include a writing fellowship for Critica and a research fellowship at the National Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art in Seoul. She contributes to Art Asia Pacific. She was actually the writer selected by Art Asia Pacific. So she contributed for a 1-year period, and also lectures on art history and research in various art schools and institutions. So, Portia?
Okay. Thank you very much, Boots. So, as she said, we have a very exciting lineup this afternoon. So, the first up is Nicolay Gupit, a contemporary Filipina-American artist working across installation, sculpture, painting, and video to probe questions on cultural belonging. Her multidisciplinary practice speculates on diasporic features and entangles the relationship between ecologies, foods, histories, and cultures. Presently, she lives and works in the Philippines as a Fulbright research grantee, pursuing transdisciplinary projects on the human toll of climate change in the Philippines. So, Nicolay?
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicolay Buendia Gupit, and I did the residency at Linangan Art Residency in Alfonso, Cavite. And I was asked to speak about my experience at Linangan, so I'll be doing that. So, essentially, my expectations of the residency was based on a previous residency experience I had in the States. So I'm originally from California, and I did a residency in, wow, this one, California. I did a residency in Colorado. It was called Elsewhere Studios. It's a small new residency where essentially it's a open-ended residency where you work for 1 month, and at the end of the month, you create artwork. You exhibit artwork. And basically, I had the expectation that the residency at Linangan would be the same, that it would be open-ended, you eat, sleep, and cook whenever you want. But actually, it's quite different. So when I arrived at Linangan, it is structured. There are workshops, art classes, and there's a specific time you wake up with everyone and you eat with everyone. And it kind of creates a culture of community. So I actually met a lot of my, what I believe to be my lifelong friends at the residency, many of whom are here today. Sorry, what else? And my overall experience was very positive. I had a really rewarding experience with the people that I work with, and it was basically like an art camp for 2 months where you really just get to cook with your fellow artists, and you at sometimes I even forgot that we're all artists because we would be laughing at the dining area together and just as like friends and fellow human beings. And what else? I guess I just want to share two really memorable experiences I had. One of which was when we had a kitchen duty. Essentially, we had to cook dinner. Two of my batchmates and I had to cook dinner, but there was a water crisis. There was no running water, and we had to wash a lot of the pots and pans in order to cook. And then there wasn't enough ingredients to cook anything, but somehow we made it through. We survived. We cooked some canned veggies, put it all together, and we struggled together. And today we still laugh at what happened that we were able to manage. And then secondly, another really memorable moment was when I was cramming for the exhibition, the final exhibition, Patikim, and I basically stayed up really late, even though I wasn't allowed to. And then I skipped dinner, and then I kept working till past midnight until 2 a.m. And then one of my fellow batchmates brought me food, and it was so sweet. I didn't expect it at all. It was really, really heartwarming, and it was like just a really unexpected surprise from someone who I really just met. I just met through the residency. So it was really great. And I guess I'll end with this video that I created.
Galing pong barangay ang aming tubig.
Na bukal sa ilalim ng lupa na umakit sa tangke tapos sinusupply sa amin ng government.
Dati po, yung kinukuhanan namin ng tubig, sa ilog po siya nanggagaling. Mas malinis. Hindi po ganun ka-dumi. At hindi po katulad ngayon na parang marami ng kalawang, ng mga lumot na po.
Pero pag maulan din po yung bukal po lumalabo rin.
Kaya kailangan talaga namin may filter ang tubig. Pataas pa yung sa amin sa aming bahay. Mag-iigib pa kami, magbubuhat, para lang makapagpuno ng tubig. Medyo malayo po
Kasi po pag ganitong maulan po, lumalabo yung tubig, nagkakaroon ng putik yung lumalabas na hose, mga kalawang. Pag ganito pong medyo maulan po yung panahon, medyo mahirap
May mga dumadaloy na tubig sa Taiwanak. Yun po yung aming iniinom.
Yolanda, tsaka Milenyo ba yun?
Zelda, Yolanda, tsaka yung Rolly, gano'n. Kasi nung Glenda, na-wash up yung bahay namin. As in, bumaksak siya.
Pag po nagkakaroon ng typhoon, sobrang lakas ng hangin. Yun, nasisira ang mga puno. Kahit tubong namin na sasalimpad, bagsak po lahat talaga.
Bibihira na naman po kasi dito dumaan yung ganong kalakas na bagyo. Tumubog po yung mga puno, hindi sagrado po yung mga daan, matagal po nawalan ng kuryente. Yung po mga tanim ng mga tao na nasalanta.
Tapos pag po kami tinamaan talaga ng typhoon dito, lahat po halos ng puno nasisira. Walang kuryente. Yan po. Pag po walang kuryente, hindi dumadaloy ang tubig.
Kailangan lang natin alagaan yung mga ilog, ganyan. Huwag natin po madumi. Kasi diyan tayo, pagdating ng panahon, wala tayong makukuha ng ibang tubig kundi sa kanila din.
Kailangan nating mag-ipon ng tubig sa mga lalagyanan. Huwag po tayong umasa na may gripo tayo, dun lang tayo kukuha. Kumaga, kailangan mo ng drum, kailangan mo ng container para makapag-imba ka. Para pag dumating ang panahon na wala kang makuha ng tubig, walang natulo sa gripo mo, may makukuhanan ka.
Thank you very much, Nicolay. And we can ask her more questions about her engagement, particularly with water, food, and the sense of community. Okay, so the next one, uh, Aaron Kaiser Garcia. He's an alumnus of Intercultural Theater Institute in Singapore and dance program at the Philippine High School for the Arts. With a strong background in theater and folk and contemporary dances from all over Asia, he has gone on to explore contemporary performance making. Aaron's practice looks into the nature of the contemporary today and what constitutes folk dance by challenging fabricated political narratives of the past. He explores the potentiality of the body to exist consciously to understand its embodied culture and function as a microscopic investigation into meaning making in the evolving social and political landscape of the Philippines via choreographic means. So, Aaron?
Hi, thank you. Hi, good afternoon to everyone. Um, I'm Aaron, and I'm the resident of Emerging Islands for this art fair. Yeah. So before I talk about the experience of my residency at Emerging Islands, I just want to kind of contextualize my practice. So it all began in Makiling in Philippine High School for the Arts, where I studied Philippine folk dance. And then at that point, I realized na some of the folk dances that I've been learning are fabrications lamang ng mga choreographers. So it's not really traditional folk dance. So for me, yung notion ng contemporary folk dance ay hindi pa siya masyadong nasa-solidify until now. But for me, ang contemporary folk dance is not about fusion of two forms. It's all about folk as contemporary. So ito yung isang video ng immersion ko with community in San Gabriel, La Union. So as a choreographer, living in this time, I feel like kailangan kong bumalik doon sa community to kind of observe and to know new knowledge from the indigenous. So I went back, I observed different communities in San Gabriel, La Union, and in Baguio City. And then I proposed to Emerging Islands a work. So nanggagaling ako sa notion ng culture as a political process of meaning making. One of my work, Tasaday, is it's a Stone Age. I did a dance choreography on Hoax tribe sa Philippines. They were fabricated. They were claimed na they were presented as Stone Age tribe noong 70s and 80s. And then 20 years after, it's all hoax lang pala. So fabrication of the the culture or the political system. So what I did in my thesis in Makiling is I created several folk dances of the Tasaday, of the Hoax tribe. And then this kind of framework, ito yung dinala ko sa Emerging Islands to talk about creating a new myth. So to choreograph a mythic dance, I considered 5 ecological prompts and encoded them in my body. So I collaborated with 6 different artists from different mediums. And then ito din yung observation ko about the principles of the indigenous or the notion of dance. Ano nga ba yung principles of dance? For me, one is nanggagaling siya sa notion ng pulse. From the body, from the heartbeat, going to out to the body. This is Jao's, my collaboration with Jao San Pedro. And then this is my collaboration with Jor Songkuya. Second principle is the notion of repetition. Third is the notion of osmosis. I collaborated with Genevieve Lazaro. She's a ceramist based in La Union. Then 4, the notion of vibration. I collaborated with Chris Stone. He's a visual artist from Australia, also a Filipino. Then lastly, the notion of change. So these 5 elements, nandun siya sa principles of folk dance or dance in general. I collaborated with Papa Wen, Wendell Garcia. He's a producer, a musician based in La Union rin. And then I just want to share one of the rituals or collaboration that I did with him in La Union for Art for Philippines.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron, for such a compelling performance. And later on, we can continue the conversation about the notions of invented tradition vis-a-vis communicating with the community with their own traditions and indigenous culture. Now, next up is Ian Carlo Hausian, a visual artist, educator, and designer who lives and works in the Philippines and a recent 13 Artist Awardee.
Hello. Oh, thank you, Sophie. Hello, my name is Xiao Shan. For those of you who don't know me, something that you have to know before I present is that I am a very, very, very big nerd, and like really legit nerd. I'm not a mathematician or a scientist by any measure, but I love physics. I love math. You can ask my wife. She sees me doing trigonometry before I go to bed, just because. And because I'm that type of person, I guess I think it's what led to my whole adult life being an atheist, or more appropriately, I'd like to say I've been a reluctant atheist because I needed to find so much logic and reason for something like that to exist. And you know what? After my experience with my research in this residency, I'm with a heavy heart. I think God may be real, and I mean, or at the very least, I'm pretty sure there's some type of intelligent design that I hope all of you get to experience or get to fathom one day. Um, what led me to this realization was when I was doing the residency, uh, something that piqued my interest with the Manila Observatory was the fact that it's a scientific institution that's always been directed by a Jesuit priest. So I figured, hey, it'd be interesting to see where faith and science could, correlate with each other. And I just dived into that rabbit hole, and what a rabbit hole it was. And I ended up, dipping my toes in some black magic. Um, I I read a lot of data, did a lot of math, and well, I really got balls deep into this thing you call sacred geometry. And just a quick description of sacred geometry, I would say it's an ancient way of seeing the world where you ascribe divinity to certain shapes or proportions. It's like when you cut open a shell. Remember when you last cut open a shell in half and you counted the distance between each line and it sort of matched the Fibonacci sequence like perfectly? It's that type of reasoning and looking at the world. So my hypothesis was, okay, if there's some truth to this sacred geometry, it should somehow manifest in data, however arbitrarily it can. And I want to share some of the spooky things I found. Can we play the video? So this is a selection of data from the climate report of the Manila Observatory. It's from this book. There are 12 different regions here showing different climate prediction data. The red line is the baseline for 2020. But the thing you need, well, okay, I cut the baseline off and you're left with an 11 to 14 ratio. Make that ratio into a diameter of a circle and the sides of a square. Their perimeters and circumference are the same, exactly the same. I mean, down to the fourth decimal point. And if you scale that up, you don't change the shape at all, huh? Just scale that up, add a few more circles, wait for it. you get the exact ratios of the size of the Earth and the Moon. You can Google that shit. It's real. And okay, can you pause for a while? Another interesting fact. Again, you can Google this right now. If you convert the values into miles, you get 5,040 miles, which is a factorial of 7, which means 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7. Isn't that spooky? Okay, we can move on. And okay, can we just pause a bit? I told you I dipped my toes into some black magic. And you know what? I found this book. It's called the Clavicula Salomonis Regis, or the Key of the Solomon the King. It's an ancient book ascribed to King Solomon of the Bible. And some texts say it was given to him by Saint Michael. Some say it's like some random archangel. But the thing that got me interested was, can you play the video? One of the main magic circle spells there, pause please. If you follow this word for word, you can get the exact same proportions from here. It tells you about, how much space the circle ends up with in terms of feet, etc. If you follow it word for word, get the same thing. And okay, play again. And there are all sorts of different connections that you'll be able to see. I invite you to just do your own research, because this is barely the tip of the rabbit hole I entered. And well, in the exhibition downstairs, I cast this spell. Oh, pause, please. Okay, well, it's a shame you can't really see these numbers properly, but these are selections from climate data on this book. And I took selections of different regions, and this time, instead of looking at the actual numbers, which don't really mean anything in geometry, what's more important is the idea of ratio and proportion. Anyhow, I averaged certain selections, and they get 1.732, 1.618. These are sacred irrational numbers. These are the square root of 2. These are the derivatives of the golden ratio. And they appear in the data. I mean, check it out. If you don't believe me, they're all here. And funny story, or actually spooky story. Yesterday, when one of my friends, who's a day trader, he works with crypto, and anyway, he said that he uses some of these numbers for his trading algorithms, and he says it works. Play, please. So what does this all mean? I really don't know. But if you plot these numbers geometrically, can we play? Yeah, it's playing. If you plot them geometrically, they form what's known as a vesica Piscis. It's an ancient symbol for Jesus Christ and other deities from different cultures. Anyway, there's all sorts of things you can make with those proportions. The one I'm demonstrating here is, with those proportions, you create what's known as the Metatron's cube. And the Metatron's cube is a special grid where you can trace all the Platonic solids inside. And incidentally, the Metatron's cube is named after Metatron, the archangel, who was Noah's grandfather before he was taken up by God and turned into the scribe of the universe. And well, you'll see this in the exhibition downstairs. I made a stained glass piece of. Anyway, just to wrap up, can we pause with this frame? I guess this sort of sums up my 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 journey so far. I'm sure it's not over. The rabbit hole goes deep, and when I was trying to make sense of all of this, I stumbled upon like a 1960s paper by this Nobel laureate, Eugene Wigner. It was a very, very interesting paper where he argues that mathematics and science, they're both fundamentally different practices. That it makes no sense that mathematics is able to describe the physical world. I mean, uh, it's to, if I were to simplify, okay, this is like a gross exaggeration, but from what I understood with his paper, it's like it's like the act of using mathematics to describe science is like finding pictures and shapes in the clouds. But then, what's profound for me at least is not that I'm demeaning how mathematics is used for science, but I'm saying that maybe seeing shapes in the clouds is more profound than what we take it for granted for. Thank you.
Thank you so much, IC. Such a fascinating and challenging notion. And I think most of us would have to Google some of these concepts so it could be clearer. Okay, we'll ask more questions later on. Now, next up is a pair of artists from Orange Project. So, Jonathan Baldonado, commonly known as Jeeb, is a Manila-based photographer. He is currently the printer of Silver, a fine art print studio, and a member of the Photomoto team. During the pandemic, Silver launched Shelter Fund, an initiative to help photographers and artists to produce and sell their prints. He has taken to 3D printing as a hobby and is currently crafting his own film camera using old large format lenses. And ESL Chen, a self-taught photographer who has previously worked in the editorial field with an emphasis on portraiture. A founding member of Photomoto PH, he took up digital photography as a hobby during his studies in De La Salle University and eventually discovered printing. His primary interest lies in the interface of the old and the new, namely how analog and digital processes meld with each other. Thematically, Chen's work is an amalgamation of paradox, time, and impulse. An early obsession with the art of improvisation in both music and theater has greatly impacted his working philosophy. His latest source of inspiration is the resurgence of analog photography. So, Jeeb and Edric.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello. Kaon ta. Shot tayo. Halong. Aidas Chicken Inasal. Frozen Brazos at ACC. Bob's. Etc., etc., etc. Anyway, I'm Edric, ESL, commonly known as ESL Chen, and this is...
I'm Jonathan Baldonado, but most people call me Jeeb.
So we took up our residency at the Orange Project last December, and we took it up in two phases. Probably the first 2 weeks of December and the last 2 weeks of January. So whatever you see here is really crammed. So we tried our best with the short time that we had. And do you want to elaborate on our experience at the Orange Project?
Everything started with seeing Freelan Gonzaga's printed work on an office printer. Then he painted on it. Then it started with a conversation.
Yeah.
Then Edric and Freelan.
Yeah, both of me and Freelan, we were there last May of 2022, and for Photomoto PH, Charlie graciously invited our whole group. we probably exhibited around 300 print works in the whole Orange Project space. I don't know if you've ever been there, but how big is it, Candy? Mga 500, 8,000 square meters. Like, wow. It's a huge, huge space. I invite everybody to go there and experience it for yourself. By the way, don't forget to go to Tropicalia Pizza. It's the best pizza in Bacolod. And then I think what drew us to apply for the residency at the Orange Project is Charlie's overall vibe. One of the most important things I learned from him is that, parang ano, how do you say this? It's almost like his work kind of shoots out his own life energy or life force. So it's almost like you have to bleed for your work, for your art to survive. That's what I learned from him. And one common theme that I saw when we were there, was this weird fascination with dogs in his
Yeah,
work.
Charlie had a lot of dogs in his work, and some of the Bacolod artists also had dogs in their work.
Yeah.
And this photograph was chanced upon by me and Edric after buying coffee beans of all things. And the first thing we thought when we saw it on the road is that lechon, but who would throw a whole lechon on the street? We initially hesitated because it's kind of not abandoned, but nobody really stops there because the business are not yet open. So we went down, took photos. As soon as we reached the art district, we went to PAX, and we started the conversation of the first work.
I think this emphasis on conversation, for some reason, it's lost in Manila. We're so trapped in our phones, viewing social media. Yeah, we do DMs and all that stuff, but the seeing each other face to face and talking, just conversing casually, there's a certain power to that. There's a magic to that. And we actually learned from Joey Gaston that Don Papa Ram was started from a casual drinking conversation between Monsignor Gaston and Steve.
Yeah, and Steve.
Steve.
Yeah. In the living room, just reminiscing about, is it Paris, France? They were just reminiscing. Then it became Don Papa.
And imagine like a multi-billion-dollar company just acquired them for a large sum of money, Diageo. So it's crazy how something that started from a conversation became this almost worldwide phenomenon. Yeah.
Conversations during our residency was so powerful. Anywhere we go in the art district, an artist would say, "Tara, shot tayo, kaon ta." We would eat, converse, life, art, politics, whatever it may be. We joke around, then we stand up, going to our back to where we stay in the residency. There's a bar there, the gray room. Then another artist will just say, brace in hand, then we'll just sit down, have a few beers, and another long conversation. We'll just say, we'll sit down, have 1 or 2 bottles, then we'll sleep at like 3 or 4 a.m., just having long conversations. Then we'll do it again the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And we actually asked Don Papa to have access to Hawaiian, the sugar mill. It started also with a conversation. We were just curious.
And we ended up going back twice. And it was such a fascinating experience seeing old machines running like clockwork. Right now everything's digital, but when you go to that plant, you even see like this timer system using steel balls. I don't know how it all works, but it's just so interesting to see. I don't know what else to say. I think that's probably it. No? What we're most excited about right now is that we're in talks with the with the art district to build a community dark room there, and it probably will morph into something else. But that's how we intend to start it.
And that started to with the conversation with Candy, with the people of Orange Project, when we walked around just asking, did you shoot film when you were studied, or when we found out a lot of them actually used photography in some way or form to make their work, even though they're not doing photography as their final output.
So that's it for us. If you have any questions, maybe we'll do it later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Edric and Jeeb, making us hungry and nostalgic for conversation and hanging out in Bacolod, no? And last but not the least is James Clark. He's interested in the narrative of potential materials and technology. He received his master's from New York University in media art after graduating from NYU Film. He was born in the USA to immigrant Filipino parents and recently relocated back to Manila in 2021. James?
Hello. I'm going to use this chair. Hi, my name is James Clark. Yeah, so I moved here 2 years ago in the middle of the pandemic. I'd never lived here, but I was born in Wisconsin, so kind of moving back has been like this process of understanding and learning a lot about the culture of my parents, and just kind of immersing myself and exploring. I applied to Butanding Barrio in Puerto Princesa for the residencies because it was the one I knew least about. So I just wanted to go someplace that I had like no idea what it was, what that place was. So I kind of went in there with this kind of just blank slate. Butanding Barrio is run by Alexis Lashima and then also Natasha Ledesma and Ton Mendoza. It's a collaborative community space and immersive nature experience tucked away in the forest of Puerto Princesa, Palawan. So this is the community space. So there's these kubos, and it's really an open space kind of environment. Even the kubos, it's just like a cloth for the walls. When it storms, the wind kind of passes in there, and you're really kind of immersed in this like jungle setting. And you wake up with birds, the sun streaming in, and so you're there. You're like really in nature. When I first got there, I had no idea what I was gonna do. So I was talking with Alexis, and I'm like, just tell me about this place. Tell me about anything weird, anything strange, just to try to trigger off some kind of idea on what I could do for the residency. So we're talking about material production or local production houses, and it's like, okay, what else? And just asking a lot of questions. She started talking about. She's like, oh, there's this funny thing. There's this chainsaw. There was this chainsaw Christmas tree, and I was like, whoa, okay, well, tell me about that. And so, can we see it? She's like, it was like this NGO. Let's see. So this is another picture of the Butanding Barrio. This is us going out into the jungle. Visiting some of the beaches. So there's this NGO. So this NGO, what they do is they confiscate materials, vehicles, equipment that have been used in illegal activities, illegal fishing, illegal logging, even like the vehicles that transport trees. So we're interviewing the person running, some of the people running the NGO. This is dynamite. So they'll catch people doing dynamite fishing. So they're really like, exploiting the environment and just kind of reaping, stealing from the environment. And I became interested in that. It's like this place is so beautiful, and then you have people kind of stealing the natural resources, and then you have this NGO who's trying to prevent that from happening. So there's the NGO, and then there's also the government agency, which is the PCSD, Palawan Council for Sustainable Development. So these two entities kind of essentially do the same thing. The official agency is the PCSD. So when we visited this warehouse, I was like, this material is so amazing. It's just wrought with it's just like compacted with stories and meaning. So I was like, we have to get these chainsaws. I want to get like these chainsaws and then exhibit it at Art Fair Philippines as sculptures, as artworks. So we had we visited the PCSD, and then it became this months-long lobby to try to convince the government agency to allow us to transport these chainsaws here to Manila. It's so hard to get chainsaws in Palawan. They're really highly regulated. So they have you have to register to be allowed to have a chainsaw. They take the serial number. If you ask for more than one chainsaw, then they start to get suspicious as to why why do you need more than one chainsaw? So they catch these guys doing illegal logging. They'll hear the sound of chainsaws going off, and then they send people out there and then stop them from doing illegal logging, and then they confiscate the chainsaws. So we had we're just trying to figure out how can we get these chainsaws. And the normal request that we did to the PCSD, they're like, no, we can't, we're not gonna let you do that, And so we just kept trying. We got denied 3 or 4 times. And each time we're like, okay, we got denied this way. Who do we know that can try to help us out in another way? And eventually we're reaching out to the governor and his office. The lawyers then also denied us that kind of represented the PCSD. But we knew that if we can convince the governor or maybe the chief of staff for the PCSD, maybe they can just tell the lawyers to allow us to do it. So so it just became this kind of so this is the denial letter that we got. One of the few. And then eventually we were able to get the transport permit. So we were able to convince the chief of staff to allow us to do it. I think the idea was that we wanted it to be, we want these chainsaws to kind of promote discussion of sustainability and development. So it's really this this idea that the artwork can kind of promote a discussion for it, because Puerto Princesa, it's developing quick. It's in the middle of Palawan. It's kind of an industrial city, but it's also it's growing so fast. So you have to allow development to happen, but at the same time it has to be done in a sustainable way. We can't ignore that this stuff happens. We can't ignore that development's going to happen. These places are only going to get more and more busy, but it should be done in a way that's sustainable. So instead of ignoring illegal logging or trying not to talk about it, we have to talk about it. And I think we have to have this kind of conversation so that people are aware of it. They're aware that it happens. They're aware that the government agencies are trying to stop that, and that development has to be done in the correct way. So if you see the chainsaws downstairs, it's official. It's actually official evidence from their warehouse. So you'll see the tags on the chainsaws that have the listing of who they took it from, the serial number, all the information about each of the chainsaws here. And so it was really back and forth. I mean, we didn't even know until maybe a week ago if it was actually going to arrive or if we would actually be able to get the chainsaws here. Once we had to go through their lawyers, we had to notarize the contract on our end. We had to give them a physical copy. So the chief of staff was here at lunch, and we're running to give him the contract in person, because the lawyers in Palawan were saying we can't allow you guys to have the transport permits unless we have the physical copy with us. And we knew if we mailed it, it's going to take too long. So we figured out that the chief of staff was here on lunch. So we were like running to Rockwell to hand him like the physical copy. And then we emailed the lawyers and said, okay, now it's in your hands. You guys have it. So they gave us like a selection of 10 different chainsaws, and then selected these 4. And so this is the chainsaws. This is like a detective map on, on the methods that we tried to do to get the chainsaws. I think like, so what was interesting for me moving back here in the Philippines also is just, there's this gray area for art, you know, like during the pandemic, like I drove around and shot like a laser out of a car to do this kind of video animation. And you can start to do things that may be more difficult to do in the States or in the West. So you just try to figure out like what is possible or what's the potential for art making. And yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, James. Now we'll just set up and let's invite the artists to take the stage again. Thank you.